Hello friends, welcome back here to League on Lock, and after a wild weekend in the EU LCS, the playoff teams are set. Well, the teams were set before the weekend actually started, but we actually have the seeding now, which is set, and there's a little bit of surprise, and because it's the final week of the regular season, it means it is our final power rankings for the 2018 summer split. I know, so sad. But Fnatic has been at the top for the majority of the split ever since really the first couple of weeks. Well, I guess Misfits for a while, but we know how that's played out. And now you have Vitality, who is climbing all the way up to number one, and deservedly so. Before everyone starts losing their mind, Fnatic dropping down to that 2 spot. Vitality went 4-0 against 4 playoff teams in week 9, and they did it in pretty convincing fashion. All Kikis does is win Player of the Game awards and win games for Vitality. He's only lost once since he came in. Vitality looks like a totally different team with him in the lineup. They beat G2 twice, again, in convincing fashion. They took down Schalke, and they took down Misfits, which isn't that impressive because right now everyone tends to be beating Misfits. But Vitality, I think, deserving of that playoff bye for sure, and deserving of going up to that top spot, especially because Fnatic lost a game, dropped the game to Unicorns of Love here in the final week. So the Vitality boys look like a serious threat here in playoffs. G2 fallen off a little bit. Schalke could have locked up that playoff bye if they had just beaten H2K. But they couldn't do it. They could not beat Memes because Memes are unbeatable, and H2 and 16 would not be denied. We were rewarded with it, so thank you to H2K for that fantastic win. And it forced all these tiebreakers, so congratulations to Vitality for the bye, and congratulations are definitely in order to H2K for going 2-16 because it's better than 1-17. They are no longer tied with Coast for the worst LCS record of all time. Obviously, the top 6 in the power rankings are the 6 playoff teams, because if you did anything else, you'd basically have to be insane. Although maybe you could even argue that Rocket or Unicorns are looking better than Misfits right now. But Schalke drops a spot because Vitality climbed up. They're in at 3. They took down G2 and looked better than them across the board. Jankos all of a sudden forgot how to jungle. Maybe he needs to start playing Braum again, even though funnel comps are dead. Maybe they can figure that out somehow. But G2 goes down to 4. They're still looking better than Splice, who was in at number 5, because they look better than Misfits. That's for sure. G2, you might have favored playing Misfits in that 4-5 matchup, which is what's going to happen. I think you'd rather play Misfits right now than Splice. We mentioned H2K. Well, they are 2-7 in the second half of the split. So are Misfits. Misfits have the same record as H2K in the final 9 games. It's incredible that after starting 9-0 to the season, they've dropped all the way to 5th heading into playoffs. The downfall continues for them. It's kind of like the reverse of spring, although they actually didn't go in a run in spring at all. So it's not the reverse, but they looked more like their spring split selves here to close out 2018 summer, and not a lot of confidence, especially another 0-2 week to close it out. Not a whole lot of confidence at all heading into playoffs. G2, I imagine, going to be heavily favored in that matchup, and that's why Misfits are looking like the weakest playoff team. That's why they're coming in at number 6 on our power rankings. The bottom 4 kind of stayed put. Unicorns continue to stay in that 7 spot because they got the big win against Fnatic. Rocket also took down Misfits, but Fnatic look a whole lot better than the likes of Misfits. Although it'll be interesting, Fnatic does look a little bit weaker with Reckless in there, whether that's just kind of getting back to the norm and figuring out how to implement AD carries back into their team comps. Caps can still play Assassins, as we saw in his LeBlanc game. He looked absolutely disgusting. But Fnatic doesn't look as dominant as they were in the middle of the split with the likes of Whippo and Soaz, which is just another reason why Vitality is coming out of the regular season as the top dogs in our power rankings. And the standout performer for them has no question been Kikis. Ever since he came into the lineup, he has just completely reignited this squad. Even Gilius himself said in a post that he voluntarily was like, don't put me back in. Obviously, you guys look a whole lot better with him. Well, in week 9, in those 2 games and the tiebreakers, 4-0 record for Kikis and Vitality. He played 4 different champions, and the numbers don't really do justice just how active this guy is in the early game, and basically gets everything rolling for Vitality. That's kind of been the theme with them in 2018, is when they get an early advantage, they can steamroll that game pretty quickly. The question marks and the weaknesses have been when they get behind early, but just don't get behind. Pretty much all 4 games in week 9, they just got ahead early thanks to some clever pathing and overall aggressive plays from Kikis. When it looks like you might not be able to lock up a kill, he just completely, no hesitation, all-ins. Even a kill like that, some people might kind of think about it and then that cost him, but he does not hesitate with his flash. He knows he's mechanically capable of making the correct play to get to land the CC or to get the last auto attack, the last hit to take someone down. He is just a confident player. He's an intellectual player, and for him being around the scene for so long, obviously he's a big veteran, but he's still only 22 years old. A lot of these think he's 26 or something, but he is not that old. Obviously a whole lot more comfortable in his main role, jungle, as he more so than he was in that top lane when he switched with G2, but he is looking like his career is rejuvenated, revitalized, and recharged, for another RE word. That's about all of them I could think of. Resurrected, that's another good one. Why are there so many RE words to describe pretty much the same thing? I don't know. But Kikis is looking great for Vitality, and I'd be scared to play them in the playoffs. Even you heard Reckless on the EU podcast last week or a couple weeks ago talking about he doesn't want to match up against Vitality because you never know what they're going to do, what they're going to pick, especially in a best-of series. We've seen when the meta was still the glorious fiesta that it was early on in the summer, they were playing basically anything bottom, bringing out the Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks, which is just still the most hilarious lane that you can think of. But now that it's back to the traditional marksman, Attila does look a whole lot more comfortable, but you know Vitality is definitely capable of pulling out some of these cheesy picks that you will not be expecting. So I'd be scared to match up against them when it comes to the playoffs. But we'll be doing a full playoff preview with Mark when he's in studio for EU and NA, going through the quarterfinal matches to start off, which get going this weekend, as I already said. So it's the hype time in the LCS for all these Worlds qualifications. We'll also talk about championship points and how that regional gauntlet run is going to be looking like it's going to be playing out. I don't think you're going to be seeing H2K in the gauntlet, which is too bad. You couldn't see a 2-16 in the gauntlet, but at least it's still better than being 1-17.